Hello and welcome to Top of Mind with Ann and Rachel. My name is Rachel Prophet. I'm a white woman with long red hair that is down today. My pronouns are she, her. I'm wearing my rose colored glasses and a sweater with a vest over it because it's fall and it makes me happy. And I'm in my office as usual with my epic sticker wall behind me. Ann, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Ann Krupke. I'm a senior fast track solution architect at Microsoft. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman with brown hair and blue, but you can't see the blue. That's in a bun today. I'm wearing some black over the ear headphones and a green sweatshirt, and I'm coming to you live from my home office.
We were supposed to have a special guest today, Dona Sarkar, but due to some last minute scheduling conflicts, she's not able to join us today. Um, but we are going to get her rescheduled for another week. And we promise we will bring you her and talk all things responsible AI. But since we didn't have her, we had to like adjust last second and decide what we were going to talk about. And I think, right, what we decided was, what's kind of been top of mind is just making really great PowerPoint presentations and making them accessible and whatnot. So I think, Anne, we were thinking that we would just maybe kind of talk through some best practices, tips, and tricks for making PowerPoints.
Yeah, and it's definitely top of mind for me. I actually just presented at the virtual Kentucky user group meeting today, and you and I think both get a lot of compliments on our presentation skills. So let's spill the secrets. Like it doesn't have to be secret. Let's share what we know, and um, we yeah, let's get into it. I've got a PowerPoint we can get started, and by the end of our time, hopefully we'll have something that we can actually publish and share as well.
Yeah, so I think we're just going to make a presentation about how to make a presentation.
Yeah, that's my favorite kind,
And we're just going to do it
presentationception.
live. Like, I think, right, we just before when we went live, we just kind of jotted down a few bullet points. So do you want to maybe let's put your screen up and
Let's do it. So our presentation that we're building is how to make your presentations better in 30 minutes or less. And all we've done so far is highlight the specific topics that we want to make sure we include. I'm sure there's lots of other tips and tricks, but we're trying to keep it to something we can deliver in 30 minutes. So if you have other things, feel free to shout them out in the comments, and maybe we'll do a part two of this and share it with the community. So number one, I feel like accessibility, I think, is number one in both of our hearts, but I actually think we should do it last so we can
I
show
agree.
people.
Yeah, so
Okay.
let's just cut that and make it and so anytime you're making a PowerPoint deck, you should always start with an agenda and or objectives. If you're doing like a training class, especially, I actually recommend you do both an agenda and your objectives. So like the agenda is kind of like how you're structuring your session. Whereas like objectives are like what you're kind of completing the sentence. Like at the end of this session or at the end of this class, you will be able to fill in the blank, right? And so when we write objectives, you want to say by the end of this presentation, you will be able to, and then proceed with whatever it is. And you don't have to write those actual words on there, but that's how we write objectives. So you can see when she wrote this first one, create more effective presentations, deliver, right? Those are all active verbs and they're also measurable verbs. So it's really important when you write objectives that you want to always start with a measurable active verb. There's actually a really cool chart made by some dude, and it's got like a wheel of verbs that you can use to write objectives. I'll see if I can find it and share a link maybe in the comments or the chat for people because it's super handy. I used to use it all the time when I was in training, like, and that's all I did full time. Yeah. Tip, include objectives at the beginning of the presentation. I like another tip is like at the end of your presentation, you kind of go back to them, right? Like, so tell them what you're going to tell them, then proceed to tell them, and then at the end, tell them what you told them.
Yep. Close the loop, as it were. Okay.
Yeah.
Objectives. And then our next recommendation or tip is smart art.
Oh,
So
smart art. Well, if you've ever seen a presentation from Anne or I, you know that we love our smart art.
it provides a visual, engaging way to consume information. And then, so that's why we do it, because it easy to animate, so people are not overwhelmed by a lot of text. And I don't know. I think those are the two main things for me, right? Those are why
Yeah.
that's why we do it, and it helps to reduce, helps you be more concise. Right?
Yeah.
And then our tip here is write out your points and then convert it to smart art.
And another tip is like, if you write in full sentences, which I think is fine, copy and paste your full sentences into your notes. Then delete all the extra words and leave just a few on your slide.
Yeah. So let's show. So if this was going to be our slide, we've written out everything we want to say on the slide. We're going to highlight it and then right click and convert it to smart art. And you can always click more smart art graphics. They're arranged by the different groups of smart art graphics that they provide. Generally, when we have a list of information like this, Rachel and I would start with a list. The other way you can do it is we really like using ones that give us an opportunity to use a graphic or a picture. So you can filter those specifically by looking at picture.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, right, another thing to point out here too is like if and maybe we'll do it on the next slide, like we'll do a designer instead of one of these.
Okay.
There's a bunch of these that we really like. I think too, it depends on how much data you're trying to show, or information you're trying to show. But also don't try to make it all fit on the slide. And maybe this is a good time to move to the rule of threes, right? In our next slide. And maybe like we can move it. Like if I was going to give this presentation in real life, I might put rule of threes first. So the rule of threes is like no more than 3 points, no more than 3 bullets, no more than 3 words.
It's 3 bullets. You have to be done.
Yep.
I think but it's also the rule of threes and fives and sevens, right?
Yeah.
So if you really can't do it in 3 words, then try to do it in no more than 5. And if you really can't do it in no more than 5, then 7.
Right. And so this is one, maybe we use designer on this one and see what it suggests.
Sure.
So designer, it's kind of like a 2-for-1 here, this little slide. Designer, if you're not familiar with it, it's a button over on the right-hand side in the action pane, way at the very far end of the home tab. And so when you click on designer, it will pull up some suggestions. And you'll notice that some of them are actually smart art. And so it's another great way to, quickly and easily convert things. And it's nice too, because like if it makes sense, like it will sometimes suggest things with pictures in them and it will automatically select the pictures for you.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how we got this car exhaust on the right side, but I think that this is probably the best one. And
Yep.
why I would pick this is because it uses the negative space really well, right? We're filling up the whole slide. If you think about
Yep.
what it looked like before, we were very clumped at the top and now it's spread it out. So I think of all the one, and it's not always, it's not always going to give you the best thing, but it might give you something you can start from.
Yeah, I agree. Like it, even if it's not perfect, it sometimes it puts, if you've got multiple elements on your slide, it might suggest to make something smaller or bigger, and you might want to flip flop those. But it can give you great design ideas to help accelerate how you create your slides.
And even after you do your own smart art, you can still see other options.
Yep.
Okay, I think we probably got to keep it moving a little bit, right?
Yep.
So the next thing we had was scripting.
Oh, scripting. So it's
I'm going to
usually
pop
one of
up
the
the
last
note.
things that we always do. So we always use the notes section to do this. So what you don't want to do is read your slides, because that is not an engaging presentation. So when we think about scripting, right, you don't want to read whatever is on the slide word for word. The slides are like whatever you put on the physical slide itself is kind of there for two reasons. One is to like guide you as the presenter, to remind yourself all the key points you're going to talk about, but it's also the engaging way for your audience to like know what you're talking about in a visual way. Keeping in mind, like everybody learns differently. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic learners, which means they learn by doing or touching. So there's lots of different types of learners, and having multiple ways of doing something can be very helpful.
It can also be really useful for helping improve collaboration and scalability. So if I create a presentation and a colleague of mine says, hey, can I use that presentation to talk to a customer? If I've scripted out the slide, then they have somewhere to start instead of having to kind of figure out what I was trying to say on that slide.
Yep. I think it can also help with your timing, making sure that you're not making one slide too long, putting too much on there.
Yeah.
So what I might do is let's follow our own rule, paste that down into the notes, and simplify everything that's on the slide here, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make it way less words. So don't read slides, right?
Presenter guidance and visual audience engagement.
Yep. So we can take out scripting can also, right? Yeah. Benefits of scripting. So we can just say improve collaboration and scalability, help with timing, pacing, and animations. There you go. Perfect. So now, like we've pretty much followed our rule of threes here.
And
now we can
convert
this to a smart art to make it look nice.
We think this one?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And you will, to go back on our points about smart art, you can use the colorful accents to make the slides more visually engaging, which is something Rachel and I often do.
Yeah, for sure.
We like rule of threes with colors too. One color is fine, 3 colors is better, 5 colors is even better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then
What are we supposed
Our
to do
next
next?
one is practice.
Oh,
Practice
practice.
and don't go it alone. I feel like,
They kind of go together.
yeah. So
So
like presenter
rehearsing.
tips.
Yeah, presenter tips.
Bring a buddy. That's three words.
Practice, practice, practice.
Probably another good one might be pre-record demos.
Yes. So a couple of tools, and maybe we could just do a few quick screenshots to kind of put in this slide, and then show kind of some like how we make a screenshot look nice on a slide like this. So we might do a picture.
I think we should do that in a further one, because
in a different slide,
or like in another section, because I think we're gonna probably run out of time to go through all of these, and we could probably spend
well,
like
I just
15,
wanted to
20 minutes.
show, like, so if we go over to the slideshow tab in the action pane.
Oops.
Oops.
Oh, I see.
Right, I wanted to actually put a screenshot, like quickly take a screenshot of the action pane and put it right into this slide that we're on. So there's a couple buttons up here that you can use if you're not familiar with them. One of them is the rehearse with coach, and there's also the rehearse timings. So those two buttons, I think, are two tools that are built right into PowerPoint to help you actually be better at your presentations. And so another thing that we like to do when we put a screenshot in, especially if we're going to talk about two different things, is put like a red box around the thing that we're talking about.
So shape fill should be no fill, and then we pick a shape outline, and then we beef the weight up so it's heavier.
Yeah, so you can
and
actually
it doesn't
see
have to be red. We just use it because it's more
it
visually
contrasts.
contrasting. Yeah. So you wanted it over rehearse with
Rehearse
coach?
with coach, and then a second one over rehearse timings. There's also the record button right next to it, which is very useful, like if you want to record yourself. So
and then typically what we would do is animate these to go along with the script.
Yep.
Which you can do just by clicking on the shape you want to animate, and then under animations, you click the one that you want. So normally I would do appear, and then a second one for appear. And to see everything, we look in the animation pane, and I can see that they're going to go one at a time. We also sometimes do a disappearing effect, which this is a tricky one, so maybe we should share it. So I want this second shape to disappear when the first shape should disappear when the second shape shows up. So I'm going to select it, and I'm not going to click up here because that would get rid of the current animation. I'm going to click add animation, and then click disappear or any of these exit animations. And then I'm going to change this to be from on click to be with previous. So now 2 will appear and 1 will disappear at the same time.
Yep. That's a fantastic tip.
Look at us go. And then, so let's do this one. I think this is a good way where we can show how we use smart art effectively as well. I'm going to change this one to a picture smart art. So I'm going to go to more smart art graphics. I'm going to pick a picture, and I think I'm going to pick this one. So because we kept it so short to 3 words, our text size is still pretty big, but we could come up with 3 different images to include with the smart art to kind of tell our narrative. Right. And all you have to do is click on the little image, and you can either use an icon, which looks like this. I don't know, we type in buddy. That's not, what about friend? What do you like, this one? With the plus sign?
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay. We do typically pick icons that have more solid color, again, for contrast, like marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you can put an icon in, or you can use a stock image And stock images are all licensed for your use as a Microsoft 365 subscriber. So these are images you should not be afraid to use in professional presentations because it is part of what you get when you get Office 365. So what about practice? If we just search that as a key, that's a lot of boxing gloves.
Yeah.
I kind of like this one. You're like trying all these paper cranes.
Oh, I like that. So
Okay.
another thing that I would suggest when you're doing images, don't mix and match icons with,
Right.
stock photos.
Right. We're just doing
in
this to show the options.
Yeah. And then, right, if you've got a custom image, like you want to put a screenshot in or something like that, you can also do that and kind of choose from file.
Yep. And you can choose online pictures, which lets you search Bing. And one thing I would recommend, what was the pre-record videos? So if I type in video, make sure check Creative Commons only. That's a very weird results for video, but because they are videos. So maybe camera. So Creative Commons are things that are available for you to use without a license if they're in Creative Commons. So I can pick a picture and include it there. You can also do, I guess not. You can also do the same thing for videos just like this. There are stock videos that you can insert into slides as well, which are more like GIFs.
You mean GIFs?
I said what I said. Okay, so we can come back and maybe clean this one up later, but we typically, like Rachel said, you'll want to keep it as icons, if all icons or all pictures, so that it's not visually confusing. It's probably what I would call that.
Yeah.
I feel like we should do a less is more slide and just leave it at that. Leave it blank.
I like that.
Let's see what we get if we do a designer on that. What do you think about this one? It's kind of like a less is more.
Less is more.
So especially for people who have pretty technical backgrounds, whether it's like configuration technical or code technical, people have a tendency to put a lot of words on the slide, and it's not as effective at conveying information, especially because you kind of end up reading word for word, and that person could just read word for word themselves. So this, like, again, the slides should be about communicating an idea, giving you the presenter tools about what you want to talk about, but not kind of telling them everything. You want them to be engaged and listening to the words that you're saying. And if you put it all on the screen, then it's not really going to be as engaging.
Right.
Because they're going to read it themselves.
Should we maybe do like a screenshot tips slide? So a couple tips on screenshot. Like I know we stuck a screenshot in there on slide 7, but maybe a slide specifically to give a few tips on screenshots.
I think we should try to get to the last two and then come back, because I think we could do a whole other top of mind on demos, screenshots, like how to do all of that kind of next level. But so if you'll notice, the next one is PowerPoint templates. So I need to pick, and that's funny because I'm picking the layout. So this is a standard Microsoft Dynamics branded PowerPoint template that is applied. I've set it as my default template. And if you're a speaker at an event, oftentimes you do have a deck provided to you, a template provided to you. And one of the best things that you can do is make use of all of the options available. So you can see we have different title slide options. We have multiple agenda options, different ways that we can present content, either with photos, as comparisons, quote slides, demo slides, section slides, screenshot slides. So a good template has all sorts of different slides that you can use. And as a presenter, to keep your PowerPoint visually engaging, I recommend that you use a mix of different slides. I like to use the section slides. to break up the different topics that I'm talking about in a presentation.
Especially when you have multiple speakers. It's a great way to
Yes.
transition from one speaker to another speaker.
So if you've seen any of our tech talks, you might know that we use a title slide over and over again. So we'll switch it back, between Rachel and Anne as a visual indicator that the person speaking is changing.
Yeah.
The other thing that templates give you is default themes and colors. So you'll notice, for example, on the scripting slide, I created my smart art, and then in the smart art design under change colors, all of these colors are picked based on what's included in the theme. And that helps by sticking to those, you'll end up with a more cohesive kind of color story when you're talking through, and the PowerPoint will feel like a complete thought as opposed to kind of maybe potentially being a little bit scrambled. So we like to pick, well, we have our favorites, right? But we still stick within what's available to us as the either a mix of the colors or particular accent colors that are part of the theme.
I basically never use yellow. Let's maybe though
That's a
yellow.
really
Let's
good
go
tip
ahead and
into,
pick the yellow one for because accessibility is our next topic.
yeah.
So
Um,
the default themes and the default smart arts are not always perfect. So
that's
this
correct.
white text on yellow background is a no-go. I know that, but you may not know that. And you're like, well, how do you know if it's good or how it's bad? The great thing is there's a little feature built right into PowerPoint called Check Accessibility. It's found on the Review tab in the Action pane. And so it will give you all sorts of tips and tricks. The one that I was just talking about is the hard to read text contrast, right? So it doesn't like the yellow with the white text. So you can choose here to change the colors, which would change it to a completely different, like one of the theme colors. But if you want to keep it yellow, you can fix this by changing the text, the font color to be black on yellow instead of white on yellow.
And
you
you'll
can
see that
away. It made it go away. Yep.
And then a lot of these missing object descriptions is something that you should be aware of when you insert pictures or icons into the slide. When somebody can't see, they may use or are hard of seeing, they may use a screen reader to go through a PowerPoint and understand what's part of it. So you can, for pictures, I would add a description. I think a lot of the icons and things come with standard descriptions, right, Rachel?
They do. But if something's decorative, right, you can also mark it as a decoration. So like on this one, we've got a smart art there, which is probably one of these content placeholders. Yeah, so it doesn't have a description, but if we right click, if we're done with the slide, we like the colors, we're not going to make any more changes to it, we can right click on the smart art and select to ungroup it. And then you right click a second time to ungroup it. Some PowerPoints or smart arts are just twice. Sometimes you have to ungroup 3 times. Sometimes it's only once. But now the kind of
slide 5 is
the
no
text
longer
on each of these boxes is now the screen reader description, and it's no longer like treating it like a graphic.
Yeah.
So,
and I would say this is one of the most important things, especially kind of going back to what we were talking about with templates, is because the way that PowerPoint and SmartArt use the template colors and apply SmartArt like options, not every combination is going to be accessible as we showed with this standard one. So you should always be running accessibility checker when you're done creating your presentation to ensure that you haven't missed anything that would make it easier for additional everybody to be able to read or understand what the PowerPoint is talking about. And we're at
right at
time.
yeah, that's time. 30 minutes. So we gave you a bunch of tips. Hopefully you found these tips helpful. If you liked our tips or have your own tips, be sure to give us a like, comment, down below. And we'll share this deck that we actually just created live out in the feed as well, so that you can kind of see it and have these tips for your future presentations. And with that, we'll see you next time on Top of Mind with Ann and Rachel.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.